this was the second track I wrote for the album. It was Tied Up was first. Yeah, Tied Up, and then CHSF. And I knew CHSF just had to have that big intro coming out of In Transmission into the new album, and then kind of just piece the parts together where it was CHSF right into Tied Up, and then the album kind of went on its own journey from there.
Yeah, I like this one a lot too, just because it's one of the ones that we've had for longest. Like we've sat on this one and Tied Up for a while. So we've had a lot of time with it. And I also just think like the instrumentation is really fun for this one. It seems like it's a really good, like a lot of the time we start our set with this one. I don't want to like give anything away too much, but it seems like it always gets people going pretty like early on in the set. So I think that's really fun. I think it's a fun song. The lyrical content, maybe not so much. It's actually probably pretty one of the darker ones on here, but I really like performing this one. So we have a fair in Lafayette called the Cajun Heartland State Fair, and I don't know why, but we just called the song that. I mean, it has nothing to do with the actual. Yeah, so it's CHSF, Cajun Heartland State Fair.
It's a little deeper and more vulgar than that, but we'll leave it there. That's
the official the official title.
The official title, yeah. It's about our state fair.
I like this one too. I mean, I like all of them. I have some favorites, I think, as anybody does. So this is definitely up there with my favorites, I'd say. But I also like how it's just kind of like, it's not a super, super long one, but I feel like it's pretty straight to the point. I think that like lyrically, it's something that a lot of people could identify with. And it's just one of our more OG songs from the album. So I like that one a lot. What about you, Tyler?
Yeah, this one, like I said, was the first one I wrote for Errors, and it was, I think the intention behind it on my side was to kind of go more into that punk direction, where it's like just straightforward, raw punk rock, like right off the gate, and then still had some of those twisty, chaotic riffs that take me a while to even learn how to play. There one in particular after I think it's like the third part, but that riff took me a while, and I know even teaching it to Trevor, and now he does that part on bass, which amazes me every time. I have to watch his fingers because it's such a stretch. But yeah, I think that one was fun, and it kind of shows all different sides of what is on the album. You know, it starts off straightforward, it goes into just like this like chaotic type part, slows down after the break, and then picks back up at the end. So I think it's got something that's on the whole album all packed up in one song.
This is like one of my favorites. And so like when you said that when you pointed out anything about it, I was kind of shocked because I didn't think for some reason that this would be like another favorite of someone else. Just because like lyrically, this is like the one that it definitely was like I felt the most vulnerable to write, because it was about somebody that I was very close to for a very long time. And this was like another one of those where I was like, allow yourself to be mad at the person. Okay, well, like I'm mad, you know? So, and this is kind of like that. This is me allowing myself to be mad and allowing myself to like just have like, I guess, a moment of weakness. And this is definitely one of my favorites on the album. I know I said that about the last two, but this is somewhere around top 3, I'd say, for me.
Yeah, I'm going to say every song on the album is my favorite. I'm going to continue to say that. I love this album. It's one that I was super proud of In Transmission too, but like this one, I don't know, it feels different for me. And Silana this song was one of the first ones where it's like, okay, let's like free vocals up to do something where you have that like just right from the beginning, like it's crazy, but then it goes into a more structural chorus, and then back to verse, and then chorus, which on the first album we really didn't do that. It was part after part after part after part. There's so many songs on In Transmission that just don't repeat parts, and so I think this was one of the first one where it was like, okay, let's go and take it into a more structural way and throw in a crazy breakdown. This one's for sure 100% my favorite one to play live. we haven't played too many of the songs live yet. But this one, I don't know. There's something about it. It just gets people going, and just those like dissonant chords starting off at the beginning, and then the way it hits like those four notes, like you think it's gonna pick up right there, but it actually goes down and slower. And then I think people hearing it for the first time are like, okay, it's gonna ride out like this, but like halfway through just takes a turn and tempo goes way higher. And that one has one of the hardest riffs I've ever wrote for myself, and every time I play it, I don't understand why I did that, but it's a fun song.
Yeah, this is my favorite song in our set list right now. Like to play for sure. I think that people receive it really, really well, which is great. But I also just really enjoy doing it. I think that like this is like one of our songs with like the slower vocal deliveries as well, which I really appreciate, because a lot of the other songs I'm like spitting out words, and sometimes I worry you can't even understand what I'm saying because I'm just like blah, blah, blah. But for this one, it's like I feel like I can really chew on each line and just like really deliver it. And I that's what makes it like one of my absolute favorites. Also, like it's just like a super cool chuggy, like it's a little bit tougher. It's like it's a tougher side of us, which I really appreciate. So there is that line in this song where I say, "Hey clown, here's your paint and your big red nose," and I always feel so awkward, like because I just wrote it and I don't necessarily write it thinking of like me saying it. Like I just write it thinking of like this is like poetry kind of thing. And so when I started like saying it like at practice or like recording that line, like it felt really awkward. Like I can't believe I wrote that, you know? And then now it's actually kind of funny because now Jeremy, our drummer, always like yells that line live too. So every time I say that part, I always turn to look at him to make sure he does it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's funny, but I do like this is like the third song in a row where I'm basically just like being like just talking shit on somebody. So I love that energy, and I wanted to keep it going, I guess. But yeah, this is another one of those angry ones. And I think that like actually kind of I guess slower vocal delivery as well, compared to like the last album, which is something that I wanted to do a lot more for Errors.
Hey Clown is the best lyric on the album, that's for sure. This song was another one where it was like, let's write just structural. This one was too simple for me, I think. And for a long time I didn't like it. And I would go to practice and be like, I want to change it. Like I want to do something. It's just so straightforward that like my chaotic brain didn't accept that it was just that simple. And now I love this song. It's so much fun to play. Like there's just the different parts that break around. And yeah, but it definitely took me a minute. I think it is very fun to play live, and people get into it. It's like a song, and I think trying to get away from in transmission of like people almost hearing us for the first time and just kind of staring at us because the music or the guitar parts would just be. I don't think they would understand it. The time signatures or it would take them a minute. But for songs that are more simplistic like this in structure, they can hear it and they can groove with it, and then when it comes back, they're excited to hear that part again. And I think that feeling is really cool. I think I keep calling this one like the Errors version of Medusa, which was like Medusa was more kind of like a Motorhead, like paying respect to Motorhead in a certain way. And then this one's more so just like early 80s thrash. And it started off that way, and then like we do tie in different elements of hardcore and stuff like that. And then it definitely just bounces all over the place. I love the Jeremy and I started jamming that thrash part first, and then we decided to do like a longer intro, and he was doing that cool drum part. And I was like, well, let's just take the drum part and just do that solo for a while. And it became just in my head immediately was like, we're going to open up like side B of the vinyl, like the album, just with those drums just hitting hard. And I think actually that song developed faster than any other song on the album. We got it done pretty quick. And then I had no idea in the studio going in that there would be like the like vocal chant parts that Crow wanted to add. And that adds so much to it, I think. Like when you hear it and it's like just these like just the group chant parts, I can see people, one, like loving the song, and then at the same time, like that's just a fun crowd interaction part to do.
This is one that like I definitely felt like a little bit weirder about writing because I don't normally write like this, like especially at the beginning of the song. It's like short lines, just like here's one, here's the next one, here's the other one. And it's just not really how I'm used to doing things. But I kind of, I guess, wanted to also challenge myself to try something a little bit different. And it's a little bit, I'll say also a little bit more of like a yell than anything else. But I do like it. It just is something that like it took me a while to get used to doing, but I'm happy that I tried something different and I think it works for the song. I do like the crowd vocals as well. I'm always down. I try to add crowd vocals to every song if possible, but it's just not always possible. So
Every song, album 3, a crowd chants.
mm-hmm.
But I think another part that's cool, like when doing this, was when we had pieced together, like that whole drum intro was so long, and then like we come in like just like Trevor and I just like with these ring out notes, then go into the thrash part. And I think when we showed you the song for the first time, we're like, we don't really come in until like a minute and a half. So you have like this like whole breather part where it's like just instruments. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I had a little trouble like figuring out where exactly I was supposed to come in. I think we had to like do it a few times before I was like, so here? No. Oh, okay. Here? No. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just shut up and you point at me when I'm supposed to come in.
First, it was like, okay, do we want to do like a guest vocal spot on the album? And I asked Crow if he was cool with that, and asked what songs like we would even do. And I think this one was just like top dog, like first pick. And we went through a few vocalists that we had in mind to ask, and well, we reached out to Candace, or I reached out to Ryan, he reached out to Candace, and she was just down like almost immediately to do it, which is very surreal to me as well. And I think going back to just the beginning of the whole interview, and so like saying, you know, what's a cool moment, and it's just like working with Candace from a band that I got into when I was 14 years old, you know, heavy influence on this band in particular. And then just seeing like what we're doing, like with Crow doing vocals and everything, and then having like somebody that was doing this forever, just on the same track, mixing it together. I don't know how to describe it. It's crazy to me. But yeah, this song is definitely one of my favorites as well. And like I said, I'm gonna keep saying that.
I was really surprised that she did it, honestly. Whenever she agreed to it, I was like, whoa, really? And it's been like such an incredible like experience. Like she's just like, I've been telling everybody, she's like a really just like kind person. She's been incredibly easy to work with. Like she's very, very organized and very direct and very like on time about everything, which I was like, wow, I mean, there's a reason why she's like the blueprint, you know? And also her parts are like really great. So what I did originally, which by the way, this is my favorite song on the album. I like this is the top for me. So Trauma Bond's close, but this one's the top for me. But I basically wrote like all the lyrics for it, and then I sent it over to her and I said, hey, just feel free to kind of like, this is where I suggest maybe you might want to come in, but really like whatever you feel is right. So she went in and she kind of adjusted things to sound a little bit more her rather than just her doing, you know, something else. So I feel like just hearing her add her like touch to it really was like so cool. It was just like I was totally nerding out on it, and I really like her delivery, and I like the way that our voices sound together, because I think that we're like have a very different vocal style, both sonically and also like our actual delivery of the lines is like very different. So I think it sounds cool when you put them together.
This is so Trauma Bond, my favorite song to play live. This song is my favorite song, I think, on the album. Just the way that it's so straightforward rock and roll that for me, like that's what grabs me. It's just like a roller coaster ride. There's like pull offs and just like there's like classic rock riffs when you go to like the 12th fret, and like there's just these different pull offs and stuff. I'm like, that sounds like Rush to me, you know? And then just tying it in, going through like the chorus and then coming out of it to slow down into like this other sort of Deftones type breakdown with like weird ambient space sounds and stuff. I don't know. This song gets me. And I love the lyrics too. Everything about it just like resonates with like me and what I love about music.
Yeah, I like this one too. It's kind of hard to describe what it's about. But I do like it. I think it's mostly just like being in the same place for so long that it just starts to kind of like drive you a little bit crazy. But I also want to just like point out that I did like make an X-Files reference in here. There's like
That's
one
why I
short
like it so
line.
much.
There's one short line where I just say I want to believe, and I literally like took that from X-Files. But it's just for like a second. I had to do that. I don't know.
I didn't know that fun fact about this song, and now I like it even more.
Yeah. It's near the end. It's like one of the last lines. It's like I say, trying to find a reason to breathe, a spark of hope. I want to believe. And I was like, X-Files. X-Files.
I was listening to like a lot of like Northwest hardcore bands. Like there's Johnny Booth, there's Boar, there's Bungler from Buffalo. There's so many cool ones. But I remember like I just went on like this or Northeast, I'm sorry, this like Northeast hardcore kick of all these like underground bands. I was listening to it and I was like, damn, they're doing some crazy stuff. I gotta write something crazy, and just like picked up the guitar and wrote this one, which ended. And then that last part, I just remember thinking like, this is the heaviest thing I've ever heard. It's gotta be. This is like the end of the album almost.
Yeah, I like this one too. This one's like this is another one of those kind of like, I guess, depressive ones where it's really just about me being totally hopeless like at certain points in my life. But I like the lyrics for it. I like that it was just like I totally was just like, this is literally what I'm feeling in this moment. Just gonna write it down, put it on paper, stop trying to make it sound good or sound cute. This is just how I feel and what's going on. And so I applaud that I was able to be honest with myself on that. But I do like I think the instrumentation for this one is really cool, just because it's like, I like something that's, I don't mind something that's like a little bit more simpler or straightforward. But I feel like it changes like just enough to keep it interesting, but it's also like, you're able to kind of like go back and repeat a line, or like, maybe a few lines can have the same rhythm. Sometimes it's kind of hard to write to stuff that's a little bit that has a lot of changes in it. And I thought this one was really cool to write too.
This one was kind of like tied up part two to me. I started doing this like thing on this album, and I don't know why, I don't know where I got it from, but it's like there's certain parts where when you're doing like those faster, more complicated notes, and then you like ride out a single note, and then whenever it breaks, like it comes back with like full chord notes, and it just sounds super heavy. So I do that on Tied Up. I do it on this one. I've even started doing it on songs from In Transmission, like in Mutt, that I didn't do on the album. And I just, for me, it just sounds cool. Nora's my dog.
Yeah.
My dog's name. I love my dog. Crow's idea was actually to name it Nora, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna name this.
Because we didn't have a name, but we're like, should we just call it outro, or should we like pick a name? And I was like, call it Nora.
Yeah. She was so stoked when I told her. She was very excited. I showed her the song. I said, hey, this is your song now. But anyway, like this was an idea I even had before Capra was even born. It's like there's certain chords that Jeremy and I used to play in an instrumental band, and it was mainly written like while we were doing that, but I never used it, and it was just really pretty picking parts. But then decided to go into a more like when we would jam it at practice, we always like just played around with this one. It went into like that more I don't want to call it black metal because I'll get yelled at by somebody, but like
you will get yelled at.
Poppy sort of black metal. I don't know, like whatever Death Heaven's doing. It was kind of like that in a sense, and I did want some sort of like piano or cello or some odd instrument on In Transmission, and it just didn't pan out for that album. It didn't make sense, I think. And when we walked into the Estuary Studios to start recording this album, right in front of us was just this awesome piano that sounded incredible. So then the idea came to add that to it. And Andrew Hernandez played that. And this song came out really great. I think in my head, it was like vocally, I imagined some sort of like Oathbreaker type screaming, and then when we got into the studio, Crow's like, I'm gonna do it different, and then that was the way to do it. Like that was that was the best move.
Yeah, it was definitely like not what I'm used to doing at all. I don't even know why I suggested that, but I was just like, hey, let's try something else. And it was very strange for me because just like hearing your speaking voice is like really weird, you know, especially when you're not used to hearing it. So at first I was like, was this the right choice? But I think it's really cool because it's very different from like the rest of the vocals on the album. So I think maybe it might take a lot of people by surprise, and I think that that's probably a good thing. It doesn't work.